welcome everybody, and this is my first talk, and it's on biodynamic growing, which I'm going to put onto YouTube and various other platforms, just to see how it works, play around with it, see if you like it. I'm doing it in my yurt. It's snowing today, so what else are you going to do? Stand in your yurt and talk about biodynamic growing, which is one of my favourite subjects. But it's all part of the new biology, the terrain paradox or paradigm that I'm actually going to be putting in the following weeks and months. So this is the one that I've done quite a few times. It's an easy one to actually introduce you to the concepts of growing biodynamically, and I hope you enjoy it. So this is a talk I gave in 2023 to a conference that was held in Shropshire to do with farmers and growing. And the actual platform that I was speaking from was to do with farming and growing with nature. So I thought it was a great opportunity to actually just dive in very briefly, because I only had 10 minutes to actually talk about it. What is biodynamics? And so what is biodynamics? Biodynamics really, a lot of people think is people looking at the moon and doing weird stuff with animal parts. And actually, in some respects, we do look at the moon and we do things with animal parts. And it does sound a bit weird. So it's not far off it, really. So biodynamics really fits in nicely with the organic growing. They sort of almost call it organic plus. It links in very nicely with regenerative agriculture and, of course, permaculture design. And I've been working with permaculture for over 30 years now, and obviously organic. And for me, biodynamics was a next step in to really seeing what I could actually help the land that I was working with really come to its optimum amount of growing potential. So Rudolf Steiner, who is his 100th year anniversary this year for the Biodynamic Association, Rudolf Steiner gave a set of lectures to a group of very sort of wealthy landowners in Germany. And they were a course of 8 lectures, which he didn't actually write down, but somebody did write them down. And they are in a book, which I can find for you. So this is the book, the agricultural course, the birth of the biodynamic, and it's easy to get hold of. So he gave these lectures, they got written down, and the reason is because the landowners were really now going into using artificial fertilizers, and all of a sudden the land was degrading and they didn't understand why. So Steiner came in and started talking about his insights to growing. He wasn't a farmer, but he was actually somebody who'd studied farming and knew the land, and he had an insight. You could almost say he channeled the information in, which has now been utilized and experimented with, and it's an alchemy. So and this picture in the middle is quite a famous drawing from Stuart Lundy, who's a biodynamic grower, which I've sort of copied and adapted. And it really is a representation of what Steiner saw the human body as. So the earth really is the upside down version of this. So the head and the lungs are in the earth, and then all the growing happens above. The reproductive system, the seeds and all that happens above. So he saw it as sort of an upside down man. Think of the diaphragm as the sort of the crust of the earth, and the rest below and above are the various elements that we can look at later on. So biodynamics is the realm of the inner form. It's the realm of consciousness of the person who is working with nature. So when we're working with, or we're on the land and we're actually tending it, we're actually conscious of what we're doing. We're not got our headphones on and just listening to something that actually is taking us away from the moment. So we are really interacting with nature. We're acting with the inner form, the essence of what that plant is telling us, what that piece of land is telling us. You almost get a feeling of like Yes, I can sense what this plant or this piece of land is trying to tell me. So the meaning of it is what you bring to the natural order creates a kind of completion or a yearning that is present within the natural order. It sort of acts somehow with humans. So plants really like to interact with us. They really want us to understand them as they understand us. So when you get to work in biodynamics, those sorts of feelings, intuition really start to come into play. And it's quite magical. It is quite magical. And magical because we actually know Indigenous people knew this. And we are Indigenous to this area. I live in Shropshire. I understand now what is happening, with the weather. I understand a little bit about the area that I'm working with. But Indigenous tribes that were on their land for generations knew exactly what the weather was telling us. They could see patterns in nature. They had a much deeper insight. And what we're doing now is coming back into that and reconnecting with that. They had rituals which allowed people to focus into the natural order. And really that's what it's all about, isn't it? When we celebrate the spring, the summer, the autumn and the winter, what we're doing is we're reconnecting with those energies. But rituals really concentrated communities together, and all that energy really fed into the magic that was performed in the weeks and months later. So what it does, it's bringing to the natural order a kind of knowing or salt or grounding. So in alchemy, the salt is the earth, and being grounded with the energy of the earth allows us to pick up on information, and it does bring that sort of natural order. We're not going against the grain. We're actually looking at nature and actually trying to understand what it's trying to tell us. So we work with the rhythms, and so my intent with nature and with the and the will to react where nature tells me to. And it is the will, the masculine the element, actually the will that allows us to carry it through. So sometimes we have great ideas in our minds and it's all very fanciful, but in the end things have to get done. And so we understand nature, we are seeing what it's actually trying to tell us, and then with our will and allowing to move around the garden, which plants can't do, we can then start to carry out the work needs to be done. So let's look at the elements now, and the elements are very in lots of different areas, the elements are used, and in biodynamics it's no different. So we'll start with the earth, and for us the earth is sort of signifies the winter solstice. It's a time of conception, of new ideas, of unknown thinking. It's all about going inwards. And we know this time of year everything slows down. We start to sit and reflect. We really start to look at what we've done previously and then thinking about putting things into play for the coming months and years. And so in biodynamics, it's the root, it's the element of the root, and so everything that actually planting wise is the root. And so we call it the seed or the ash, and which the seed and the ash is the conception. So it's really, we plant the seed in the ground, or it falls from the year before, and there it sits in the ground. And along with sitting in the ground, we say that the sun is in the earth. It's actually there from the previous year or the year that you're actually in, and it's sitting there really giving information to that seed, and the seed is giving information back to the soil. So it's an unknown thinking, but at the same time, we sort of feel that actually, though we don't go sort of digging around in the soil to see if the seed's actually germinating, we have trust that what we put into play will actually come into fruition. So with the elements or the constellations, we actually are looking at. We're looking at the element of the earth and the root and the planets that correspond with that in the constellations, which is planets that are in the sky at the time. On that particular day are Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn. And in biodynamics, we don't give them the astrological name. We name them by the constellations, or for the bull, the virgin and the goat. Then we move up. And so coming out of the winter solstice, we go into the spring and we have the spring equinox. And really what we're looking then, we're looking at the water element. So spring, it's the unfolding of life, the sap starts to flow. And so we're looking at the leaf and the stem, which is very watery. And so things are coming up from the lovely seed. It's poking its head above the ground, but all the water is coming in there, which as we know, is structured water that has information that's been through eons and eons of cycles, and that governs life. And then here we have the constellations of Pisces, Cancer and Scorpio. And we say the fish, the crab and the scorpion. And really that phase is quite moist. So the earth is quite cold, then we're moving into moist, and then we're moving into air. So if a plant kept going and growing and growing and growing and growing, it would just like Jack and the Beanstalk, not stop. So we need air to actually allow those things to be held in check. So we're looking at the summer solstice. The air is a processing. It's a sort of it's what we call it. We're holding the plant in a check and a balance. It's a drying out. We're now looking at the oils and the sugars and also the gases and the protection. And so all those things in air, so things become more gaseous, more fluid. And so from a very dense earth and water, we're now moving into the air element, which is very much more, it's sort of ethereal, isn't it, really? And so for us in the biodynamic movement, we're looking at the flowers, and that includes broccoli, because broccoli is also flowering. And we have Gemini, Aquarius and Libra. And again, it's the twins, the waterman and the scales. I love summertime. And then we come into autumn. So autumn is hot and it's dry. So we're now looking at everything sort of coming to a finishing off period. And so it's a burning off. It's a finishing, so the new can be carried over, as we said, into the conception period again. It's a coming to term. So the fire is the autumn equinox, and we're looking at the fruit and the seed. The information that has been collected through the whole year from your sort of lovely soil and all the things that you've done, how you've talked to it, how you've nurtured it, ready to go into the next cycle. And those particular planets would be Aries, Sagittarius and Leo. So when they're actually the constellations in the sky, then we know that we're actually working with fruit and seed. And again, that's the ram, the lion and the archer. So we'll just quickly look at working with biodynamics. So we're working with biodynamics, so we're paying attention. You're paying attention to what you do and when you are doing it. So when we've got and we're very lucky because we actually use a growing calendar here, which is just here. It's the Maria Thun growing calendar. I'll show you later the book. So when we're working with that, we're using the calendar. And great and fantastic Maria Thun's worked it all out for us. We're working with the calendar, but also we're working on ourselves. What do we do? When are we doing it? Are we conscious of it when we're actually doing it? You work with the rhythms. The rhythms replace power. So instead of us going in there going, right, this is what I'm going to do, and powering through, we're looking at the rhythms. We're actually asking the garden, what it is that you want me to do now? And you get a feeling, a sense. You have a relationship with your land. So a plant unfolds in time and space. So it's different to us. When we're children, when we're babies, we're born, we're all got the legs, the arms, the head and everything. A plant is not. It's unfolding in a time and space. The seeds in the land, and then it's coming through all the elements, and it grows, it grows, it grows. So in time, it starts to unfold. So that unfolding gives it different information. So really, we are involved in alchemical thinking. The elements are becomings. So we have a beginning, a middle, and the end. And the end is really where we come in, because a plant can't do any fermentation. It can't save its seed. It can't process herbs. It can't make tinctures. It can't make medicines. So we are actually there to help that process. So we are part of nature, and without us, those final processes would not be happening. So there is the alchemical thinking. We work with the moon, obviously the moon phases, so the ascending and descending. And, when the moon is full, we're looking at low sap and we're looking at pruning. We're setting intentions. Excuse me. So when it's a new moon, we're actually there setting our intentions for the coming weeks. We come to the full moon and we know the strong forces, and sometimes they're too strong, so we wouldn't work in the garden. So strong forces of water, reproduction, growth, and strong germination. So we can use the moon in different phases to help our planting of our seeds, or even the planting, potting on of plants, because it just gives us that extra, it really helps the plant actually unite with the soil on a specific day. We know on a descending moon the energy is coming down. So if I'm planting root plants like beetroot or anything like parsnips, that energy is going to be really drawing onto that seed, allowing all that energy to come down into the roots. Whereas if I want leafy things or leafy plants, I want the energy to be a bit more above the ground. In biodynamics, we use what we call biodynamic preps, and they're a little bit like, think homeopathic remedies. So they're very, very small amounts of information that we are putting into water, and that allows that information, when it's taken onto the land, to be given to the soil, to the plant. And it just helps the plant have that information to know what to do. It works with the plant. So with 500, excuse me. So with 501, it's working with the upper, and with 500, it's working with the lower. So 500 spray is what we call the cow manure, the cow horn manure, and so that actually works with the elements in the earth, the roots and the soil. And then we have the 501, which is horn silica, and that works with the upper energies, the upper elements. And so we need to balance the two. So we usually do 500, and then on a day where it's all about the energy coming down, and then when the energy is going up, then we use 501. And then up here is the calendar that we use. Maria Thun's amazing calendar, and you can buy this each year, and it's all worked out for you, so you can actually look to see what days you're going to be planting. At the side there you can see if it's the northern transplanting, which means the energy is coming down. It tells you the roots, the flowers, what days you're going to be planting on. It gives you the moon cycles, and also days where you're not planting on, which is I can go into later. And then we go over to planets, planetary alignments. And then at the bottom, also all the information about the different things that you can plant on different days. And I usually give loads of notes. So I hope that gives you a little bit of information about biodynamic growing. We have several books here that I can show you. So one of my favourite ones is this one, which is Maria Thun's Gardening for Life. the biodynamic way, and that's really great because it shows you lots of information and plus pictures about growing on different days, so planting a root day and a leaf day, and how really that doesn't the plant really sort of suffers actually. And also picking your garlic on a root day really helps it store. If you pick it on a leaf day, it tends to start to spurt, give its little spurty green shoots quite early on. So that's a good book to have. And then if you want to know more about preparations, this is a really lovely biodynamic for the Biodynamic Association that gives you all the information about stirring, making it, putting it on the land. And then some of my favourite books, if you want to be a little bit more esoteric, is this one, Dennis Kluzak, and it's a book on moons, and it just gives you much more information about how the moon is working in a much more alchemical way. So there's some great books there that you might want to go into. So I hope you enjoyed that very brief introduction to biodynamics. There's a lot more to say about it, and there's amazing teachers out there. So if you really want to know more about biodynamics, please get in touch with the Biodynamic Association, and workshops and talks and gardening clubs you can join. But it is a process of just really learning and being patient and understanding and having an interaction. So there is a little bit of magic in there, which, we all need in our life, don't we? Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll look forward to the next one.